Welcome, everybody. My name is Doreen Warren Van Dam. I am the community manager for Social Media Pro Connect, as well as Social Media Managers Groups. I am the content manager for Social Media Pro, and today with me, I have my good friend, Christine Gritmon.
Hi.
If you will indulge me, I'm going to read her bio, even though Christine and I are good friends, just to make sure I don't forget anything. Christine Gritmon helps small local businesses be less intimidated by social media so that they can take better advantage of the incredible community-generating opportunities these platforms offer, all with an eye towards strategy, efficiency, and most of all, personality. Christine loves public speaking, group workshops, and training sessions, as well as working one-on-one to help overstressed small business owners realize that they can do it. She's easy to spot in a crowd by the bright red ends of her hair and the selfie light on her ever-present iPhone. So welcome, Christine.
Thank you, Doreen.
Tell our viewers where you are.
Sure. I'm here in Nyack, New York, which is about 45 minutes north of New York City. It's a beautiful little village on the Hudson River. And I started out being very local, just working locally, and I'm expanding across the river a little bit to Westchester County. But for the most part, I am generally working on expanding to doing a lot more speaking. I'm going to be doing some e-courses. I really just want to reach out and break out of my in real life immediate area. And social media is really such a great platform for literally anyone to be able to do that.
Right. So as we usually focus on these Hangouts on what we can do for our clients, I thought this week would be really fun to talk about how we, social media managers, can market ourselves and our services. And being your friend, watching you, being Rumi at Social Media Marketing World, I've watched your growth, your explosive growth in using video, and really fun ways and different ways of using video. So I really want to talk about that, how we can use video. And there might be some people watching that are a little fearful of social media and especially of video, using it for themselves. So if you're watching this and you are fearful of social media, there is a course that I recorded, or a Hangout recorded with Kate in 2017, and it talks about getting over the fear of the video. So you want to watch that. If you have an immediate fear of, I've never done video, I don't want to get in front of the camera, watch that first. I give you some real life hands-on ways to get past the fear of the video. So watch that video if you have never turned your smartphone on yourself and recorded something to put out there. So that's first things first. And then Christine's going to share with us some different ways of using video, but also different types of videos that can really make a huge impact on marketing your social media marketing business. So first things first, should every social media manager or strategist, as you are, create content? Should we all be doing this?
Should we all make
What's your answer?
You mean to market ourselves at our own business? Absolutely. Because the fact is, when I see someone say that they're a social media expert, a social media marketer, or any sort of marketing, and they're not doing marketing, I feel like, okay, well, that's your most important client right there, and you're failing them. And it's also a really great way to show people that you know what to do, that you know what you're doing. If you can't market yourself, why should I believe that you can market me? And it took
I like
a while
that
to get there, because my whole first year of my business, I relied on that. I said, you know what? My job is promoting other people. I'm not promoting myself. People know me, and no, it was all fear. It was silly. It was fear. We have this weirdness about promoting ourselves. I went to a conference and got my head straightened out. And then I started marketing myself, and it's just so much better. And this year, same conference, I got my head straightened on again and really started getting serious about being more planned and strategic with my content.
Yeah.
In a way that doesn't become a whole extra job. Because while I am my own top client, that doesn't mean I want to spend all my time on that client,
Well, and I think that's where you kind of hit it on the head, like how much time, and this is a question that might be on my sheet, but how much time should somebody take? How much time should you schedule that time? Like, You know, and I have been in business for a little bit longer than you. I've been in business for over 8 years, and I have struggled with that. I had a blog. I was blogging 3 times a week when blogging was really, really, really big. And I would spend probably 10 hours or more a week on my own content. And, you know, I did lead generation, but I don't feel like that was the smartest way. So we definitely want to know from you, like, how to be effective with the minimum amount of time, because, you know, a lot of us, especially when we're beginning, even though we recommend you price yourself per project, not per hour, there are social media managers out there who get paid by the hour. And so if you spend lots of your billable hours on your own content, that's not necessarily, you know, the best and the quickest way to make money, right? If you're using your hours for yourself. So kind of want to know a little bit more about that, how, you know, how you do it, and how you decided to, and where you're putting your time, I guess, is a good
And
way.
that's really the biggest struggle that I have. It's a very common struggle, but I feel like I've traditionally been very bad with my own time management. Again, I can teach other people best practices and what they should be doing till the cows come home. But for myself, I've traditionally failed myself on that mark. And so the way that I've found that works best for me is, first of all, I'm getting more into batch creating content, and that is fantastic, because if you have something that you can batch create, like for example, I sat there and thought about 12 frequently asked questions, and I got that idea from a content challenge that you and I did together for How to Social. So I sat there and I said, okay, let me think of a bunch of frequently asked questions that I get all the time that are really basic, but that people are wondering. And I just rattled off like a dozen really quickly. And then I sat in front of my iPhone for, no joke, 15 minutes. I rattled through an approximately 1 or 2 minute answer for each of them, because they're things that I know the answers to. And I just did it in straight shot videos, like 2 of them maybe I shot twice. Like, it was really, really simple. And then I scheduled those to come out every Tuesday, and boom, I had like 3 months of content. You know, I'm going to be recording another batch of them soon, but I don't have to get those up until, yeah, I've got a little while. So that was fantastic. That took such a short amount of time, and yet people are consistently telling me that that is a really high value piece for them. And it shows off that I know what I'm talking about and that I can express it in a really down-to-earth way. It shows to people who are on a more beginner level that I'm not talking above them, but it also shows people who are at a more advanced level that I'm good at expressing concepts.
Oh, I love that. That's really, really good. So that is once a week on a Tuesday, you share that. You want to share a little bit more about what else you put out there for video content?
Absolutely. Here's another thing, just to back up just a little bit. Previously, I was very scrappy and all over the place and in the moment with my social media content. I still have that going to some degree, but I decided to get organized so that I know no matter how my week goes, no matter how crazy it is, I have these weekly things that happen. Another weekly thing that I have that I batch create now is Instagram only. I have a red letterboard. It's a red felt letterboard with white letters. And I batch create that. I don't have to do another one of those. Again, that was like a few months worth of content. And I do all the letterboards like in, you know, I have a little shoot there. It takes me maybe 10 minutes to get through a few months of them. And I schedule them to go out. And that's just a nice little thing that I know is going to be there on Monday morning on my Instagram. Tuesday, I have those frequently asked question videos that are pre-scheduled and batch created and go out on multiple platforms. I also have a blog post for each of them that goes into a little more depth. And I have a little comic book strip on the blog too. And I could show that in screen share in a little bit.
Yeah.
But I also have, this has been an interesting thing to work out, because I am on my 3rd iteration and my most successful iteration of a feature I call Midweek Minute. And so when I started Midweek Minute back in 2017, I would generally do it live, but it was only about a minute long, so it didn't really have any advantage to being live.
Right.
But live, I would just do, I read social media news every single day. I get Google alerts, I get newsletters, I talk to people in communities like this one. And so I keep up to date on the latest social media news. There are headlines every single week of stuff going on that most people don't know about if they're not following it like we are. And so I would just rattle off the headlines at approximately a minute. But a 1 minute live video, there's not really a point to having it live. Except that then last spring, I said, you know what, let's change this format. Let's go consistently at a given time every single week, and it'll be a recurring live show on which I bring in experts to discuss topics. But I was often very last minute with getting my experts, and a lot of times they couldn't make it. A lot of times it was just me talking through the stories, and I thought talking through the stories would be of greater use than the Midweek Minute, just rattling off the headlines and linking to a blog post if people want to learn more. It wasn't actually that successful because I was so inconsistent with how I was doing it. And it was a big stressor for me. I've found that my Wednesdays tend to be very busy. There's a lot of local events. Things just keep piling on my calendar on Wednesdays. It wasn't a good time for me to protect that sacred time for a weekly show. I have a weekly show Fridays at noon that I'll talk about later, but Wednesday was not a good time for that for me. So now what I do, and this is, I've only been doing it this way for a few weeks, but I love it, is on Wednesday morning, you know, like before I start my day properly, I compile the stories, the headlines that I'm going to do. I set up my real camera, which is another big change. Instead of just doing it on the iPhone, I set up my real camera in a consistent setting with consistent lighting and everything. And I run through the headlines. I rattle through them a few times because I do like that live feeling, just straight shot video style. I don't like to edit because that's more work for me. That's more time for me.
Right.
So I'll rattle through them straight shots several times in a row. I'll go back and look at the one that was simultaneously clear and a minute. So it doesn't go over a minute.
Sure.
And it still links to a blog post. People don't go to the blog post that much, honestly, but they love the Midweek Minute because they're hearing the headlines. If they want to know more about a story, they can find that out. So that goes out every Wednesday at 12 noon. It is pre-recorded. It is now captioned. I'm using a captioning program called Quick, Q-U-I-C-C. It's still in beta, but I'm in the beta program. I'm putting my Tuesday FAQ videos through that too. And
so what you've done with your Midweek Minute, and I've been watching you do this because I saw you in March, and I've seen kind of the takeoff of all the video.
Yeah.
That you are positioning yourself, the social media strategist, as the expert. Yep. You don't have to know everything about everything, but you're that being up to date on the news. So when somebody comes to you, this is what we see in the social media managers group. And for those of you watching, you know this. You have these questions. You go to a meeting with a client and the client says, well, I heard that Pinterest did this or that. And you don't know. So you said, well, I'll check in on that. And you come back and you ask your colleagues. Well, if you have an expert in your immediate online circle of friends, or if you know somebody like Christine, you would go there. You would have established that relationship with her. You would go to Christine and listen to her Midweek Minute, and then go to her blog if you wanted to know about something because you needed to answer that client. I can't tell you how often people say that I heard, or somebody told me, and I always say, please cite your source. Tell me where you heard it and tell me who wrote the article. And more often than not, it's just rumors that are flowing around and this myth. So by you doing this, Christine, by you giving this value to your clients, to your audience, it cuts out all that work for them. They're just going to go every Wednesday and listen to your Midweek Minute, figure out what all the headlines are, and then if there's something important there, then they know where to go to get the actual information.
And I'm really reading the stuff. So like if people do have a question on it, I'm prepared to answer it. I won't say, I don't know, I just skimmed it. I'll say, oh yeah, here's what that is. And that brings me to another really good point about content in general, about why you should create content as yourself, and about a frequent hesitation people have, which is people say, I don't know what to put out there as content because I don't want to give away my knowledge for free. People pay me for that knowledge. I don't want to give it out for free. Here's the fascinating thing about that, though, and those of us who have done this know this. It sounds counterintuitive, but the more you give, the better you look to people who actually will come and hire you. It won't prevent them from hiring you. You're not teaching them enough with this free content that they won't need you. You're just showing them, hey, here's my style, here's how I explain things, here's my area of expertise. You're giving them all the information that they need to make that purchasing decision, to establish yourself as the expert. And yeah, it's possible that you do teach them so much that they don't need you. But that's great. That's a client.
But they will most likely refer you. They refer somebody to you because that's another whole way That happens too. I actually got an inquiry last night, a text from a former client who couldn't work with me anymore because he restructured his company. I was an outsourced freelancer. I got a text last night. He hired his first employee. He wants to go back into social media. Could I go in and train them and then, help them for a couple months? That fee is going to be like, I don't know, 10 times X of what I had charged when I was working for him.
Yeah.
But obviously I did a good enough job. The relationship stayed. There was a referral back to, can you do this? So establishing yourself out there as an expert and being seen by people. And that comes back to video, right?
Yes.
You can write, you can take pictures, but there's nothing as compelling as getting in front of the camera and talking directly to somebody. And
Exactly. Because there's no place to hide. I mean, you can see that I know what I'm talking about because you can see that I'm not scripted. I'm answering questions as they're thrown at me. You get a sense of my personality. You get a sense of my communication style. It's really the best possible way to communicate as much about yourself in the most effective, efficient way. It can be snackable. My short videos that I do every week, they're highly snackable. That means that people can get a ton of value from me in literally 1 minute. I also have a weekly Facebook Live show on Fridays at noon, and that is live. And I interview smart friends like Doreen. She's been on it. Although I haven't interviewed you, you guest hosted for me when I had my tonsils out.
That's right. That's right. So I'll have to come in as a guest. So,
and that's great too, because people are getting value not only from me, but I'm providing them with the value of my smart friends as well. And that's fantastic. And people love that show, and people recognize me out in the community. They say, someone told me I should be watching your show, or I know you, I watch your videos. And that's fantastic, because that means that they know who I am, they know what I do, and they like it. And then when they meet me in real life and see that I'm just like I am on my videos, that cements it right there. They're like, okay, she's the real deal. I feel like I know her from her videos, and now that I'm meeting her in real life, yeah, this is who I see. This is who I was expecting to meet. And that adds to the trust factor.
Okay, so a couple of questions that came up to me. Here's my first question. First of all, tons of shows. We are connected to other social media managers. What is it? What compels somebody to watch you and see you as the expert versus other people? How do you get started with establishing that? And then if there's already all these shows out there and everybody has a podcast, how do you figure out what format works for you? How do you test that? How do you find something? Because you said this is your third time launching Midweek Minute.
Yeah, it's my
and
third
you nailed
iteration.
it. And you nailed it this time, because I think it is great. I watched it and I love it.
Thank you.
So what can you give people that are watching and that are saying, okay, you know what? I'm listening to Christine. She's awesome, dynamic on video, because you are. I want to start doing this. I'm going to start once a week. How can somebody get started? How can they get started with video so they can establish that trust relationship with their audience, get new people in, reconnect with the people that are already in their circle? And give us a tip or two. Like, how do you suggest somebody does that?
Well, one really big thing to remember is that talking on video shouldn't be considered something wholly different from speaking to a human.
Okay.
And if you're in business, you presumably do have to speak to humans, at least to some degree. It might be all digital, but the fact is you're speaking to humans. And so one thing to really know when you're getting started is, who are you speaking to, who you would also be speaking to in real life?
Sure.
What do they need to hear? And if you start from that place, you're really, 10 steps ahead of the game, because the fact is you're taking something that would be useful in real life and just putting it on video and making it useful to way more people than you'd ordinarily converse with at a single moment. And you can start really small. You don't have to start with like an hour-long live stream. You can start pre-recorded. If you do go live, you can keep it. It doesn't have to be super long. They say ideally, say at least 10 minutes on live so that you can develop your audience. You don't have to, especially if you're just testing the waters and you don't want that many viewers. And it stays on your profile after the fact. People can watch the replay. I get most of my watches for anything. I get most of my views on replays. I
think most of our are like that. And I'm going to give a tip here. This is considered a video, okay, that Christine and I are doing. Mm-hmm. So if you are completely new and you don't know how to work systems, or you don't have a good camera, or you don't know, how to use your smartphone, or you just want to get started, get a Zoom account, right? Invite one friend to come with you, record it, and then you have a video that you can download and post on social media. You can actually do an interview, just like Christine and I are doing, with experts, and use Zoom as your tool to do it. There's going to be no audience. If you don't invite anybody else, there's no audience here. It's just you two talking. You can interview people in your industry or about a certain topic, or maybe other local businesses. There's all kinds of different ideas, but this would be like the least scary way of getting started with video. I assume you can get a Zoom account for free, invite a friend to come and record it to the cloud, and then you got it, boom, you can upload that. So that I just want to give some easy hands-on way to do it. Now, when you did your minutes and your midweek minutes, initially you did everything with your smartphone, correct?
Yes, I did everything on my phone. I did a lot of it relying purely on natural lighting. Natural lighting is great. It's always going to look great, but the fact is sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it was a cloudy day. Sometimes it was weird, so it wasn't consistent in look. It wasn't consistent in feel, but who cares? Because people started watching and they started getting what it was, and they tuned in for the information, not the tech. I've recently made tech upgrades. This is my 3rd year in business, people, and I've only just started using a real camera and a real microphone, and I'm still figuring it out. So the fact is, if you have something to offer, if you have something of value to offer, if you have content to offer, which you do, it's in your brain, there's a reason you have a business. That is really what you need. Don't worry about all the rest. If one thing is killer, the rest will, there's some forgiveness there, especially with live video. There's so much forgiveness with live video because people are terrified of live video. You're going without a net. So you have a lot of built-in forgiveness there. People are not going to judge the fact that you do try to have very strong signal if you're going live, but the fact is if the signal wobbles, people know that's not you. That's the signal. That's tech. If your phone, if the lighting goes in and out, that's not you. That's the tech. They're there for you. So don't let yourself get hung up on all that other stuff. It's great once you're comfortable to up that tech, but the iPhone is incredible. The iPhone is a ridiculously majestic piece of technology. Androids are great too, smartphones in general. It's incredible. I've worked with people and I've said, you know what, just do a live. I have a friend who is a realtor, and part of what he sells is our local area. And I said, okay, so what do you love the most about living here? And he said, I love going for walks at this particular park. I said, you know what, go live from that park on one of your walks. And he's just like walking with his phone, and it's like bumpity and like answering a question that people have about this area. People love it. It's fantastic. It's a slice of life. They trust him because it's not overly produced and flashy. It's clearly like in the moment. He's keeping it real. People love that. Being human is not a disadvantage, especially when it comes to live video.
And as a social media manager, you can show some behind the scenes things. You and I have talked about that. You're in your attic, right? Currently. Yes. I am in my office, and, I sometimes I usually lock up my dogs. They have crates that they go into when I go live, so they don't all jump through the door and jump in my lap. But, taking care of some of the tech issues and some of the background things, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like you said, it doesn't have to be the perfect lighting. The most important thing is to get started and to have some content ideas. So
and you have to make some bad videos before you can make some good videos. I mean, no one in the history of ever, as far as I know, has ever, the first time they've ever touched water, did a perfect swan dive into a pool and did some laps. No, first you kind of play around, you do a little splashy thing, you get comfortable in the water before you're able to really learn how to swim those laps, before you're able to do that swan dive. But if you've never been in the water before, I'm sorry, you can't learn how to do that.
Right. And so for those of you watching that are students of Social Media Pro, if you want somebody, a nice, kind audience to watch your video, feel free to put it in our Social Media Pro Connect group, right? Yep. We're all friends. We'd be happy to look at it, to give you some feedback, comment on it, or if you even, I'm good with you putting a link in there and saying, hey, I did my first video. Can you come see it? I'll go see it. I want to see what you do, because this is important. This is how you can gain the trust and get new leads in for your business. That is how you market yourself with video. So Christine, we are at the about 30 minutes in. So I was going to have Christine to show you 1 minute of her 1 minute video. And if not, I should have set that up myself. I didn't even think about that to do that. Okay, here we go.
I have a few videos queued up.
Okay, so here is one.
So here's a frequently asked questions video, and I also have a tab pulled up with the blog that accompanies it. Do you want to see that first, and then the midweek minute?
Yeah.
Okay. So this was literally one of about a dozen that I slammed through in 15 minutes with my iPhone in my attic.
Hey, it's Christine Gritmon here with today's social media frequently asked questions. I get asked a lot, hey, I'm not sure what SEO is, but I hear it's really important. Can you help me with that? And so here's the deal with SEO. SEO stands for search engine optimization, and it means basically making sure that you are found by search engines for the right keywords, for the right reasons, by the right. And while SEO certainly is a part of social media strategy, and it is something that I bear in mind when making sure that content has certain keywords, especially profiles have certain keywords, I do keep SEO in mind, but I'm not an SEO specialist by any means. Similarly, a lot of people ask me about like Google AdWords and things of that nature. Not what I do. I really.
Here's the video that goes with it.
However, there are strategists out there
the blog post.
Really do specialize.
That's awesome. Cool. And I saw queued up on the side, I could watch it, that you had all these other frequently asked questions, and you could see, if you want to go back to that Facebook for a second, if you want to pause the video. If you can see on the side, guys, you see there's all Christine's videos. You all shot them in one day. It's exactly the same background, exactly the same hair. It's the same Christine. That's called batching, right?
Yep, that background is an IKEA curtain, by the way. It is an IKEA curtain that costs a few dollars hanging on a clothing rack.
That's awesome. I love it. And I just bought myself a clothing rack to do the same thing because I heard you say that. So I have one, and I'm going to get, what color should I get?
I think you should probably get, orange, maybe.
Okay. All right. Show us a midweek minute. I would love to see that.
Here's yesterday's midweek minute.
It's Christine Gritmon here with your midweek minute. Facebook co-writer contends that Facebook is being too powerful and needs to be broken up. Facebook, of course, countered with, Facebook new birthday stories enable direct birthday greetings to be compiled into a single story format. Songs. We also got some tools for small business, including automated advertising, video editing. Facebook is also developing a WhatsApp payments feature, and they are going to be developing a new Instagram has a new account called @shop, which will highlight shops from across the platform. Instagram's also upping their fact-checking tools, so you can be flagging anti-vaccination content. And there's a rumor that they're also developing a story sticker that will emit a snippet of a music video. Meanwhile, MailChimp is actually making a huge play to become an all-purpose small business platform. In addition to email, they're going to be offering websites, ad targeting, automated mailers, which they already offer to some degree, and a whole CRM system.
All right. So a couple of things that I want to point out with the midweek minute for people that are watching that is kind of important. You see Christine moving. Okay, she starts out and she's moving. Her hands are going. She's engaged. No, it's a good thing. Yeah. People, if you sit like this or you talk like this or your hands, right, you've got to do something. So props could be good. Be enthusiastic. Go with your hands. Move your body. That's a good way. I love the subtitles on there, and she already gave you the tool that she used. I think is important to find a tool that works for you. Pretty simple to use, and put subtitles on there, because even now we couldn't really hear it very well through Zoom, but we were able to read what she was saying. I just think that was a great, quick way to do it. I have one question for you, Christine. It looked like you were always looking in the camera. I cannot imagine that you memorize a minute's worth of headlines. Do you have something behind the screen that has it listed, or do you, what do you use?
Little column A, little column B. I do take, so I have a blog post, which you can see here, where I've kind of figured out what the top posts are going to be. And what I do is I do semi-script. I do like the most basic possible, and I used to be a journalist, and so much of journalism is finding out how to say things really clearly in as few words as possible, but with powerful words. Okay. So I do that editing there, and I find out how few words can I convey this in for each story, and I make it as short as possible. And I do print out sort of a cue card for myself.
Okay.
That goes through the stories. but weirdly, I do kind of memorize it.
Oh, okay.
But getting the order takes a little while. I like this straight shot video style, but the fact is I do a whole bunch of takes of it because I'm filming myself, first of all. So I have the camera there and I just rattle through. And I actually have taken to having my phone next to me and I set the stopwatch, but I have it next to me.
Okay.
So I'll start rattling it off. I'll hit go as soon as I start saying, hey, it's Christine Gritmon. And then when I'm done with that take, I'll hit stop and I'll look at it and I'll see how long it was. If it was a minute, great. There are, of course, a few takes where I stumble over certain things. There's like a random word I just can't freaking get in my head. So it takes like 10 takes. But the fact is I do that all in a row. I just spit it out. And then I take the take that worked the best.
Okay. And I do want to tell you that I did some pre-recorded videos, batched them for a while, a couple of years back. And I got an old iPad and I downloaded a bunch of different apps that I tried. But one is called DV Prompter. And you basically, you can if you write a script, you can import that into it and it will scroll as you start it. So you put your text in and it will scroll your text. You can put it right behind your camera and then you can read it and you can put it to different speeds.
I have yesterday's cue card actually here. This is literally yesterday's cue card. And
that's cool.
It's not exactly perfect. I do kind of prop it up like right under my camera.
Yeah.
But I don't quite read from it because I want to feel a little looser than that. But when it comes down to it, if I screw something up, I can look at that immediately after the take and go like, oh, I couldn't get that word. That's the word I stumbled over.
Right.
Do I change that word or do I just, remind myself?
Okay, awesome. So, but if you do want something, there is a little app for that actually will scroll you. So I have another question for you here. I'm going through my list. Besides going live on Facebook, which we all know like we should be doing, how else can we get noticed? And as I'm asking you that question, I want to let people know that you can go LinkedIn Live now, but you have to sign up for it and get chosen. I got access this week. I went live yesterday. I'm going to go live again today. I'm super excited for that. It's a little scary because you have to use third-party apps, which is something I am not techie, so I had to figure all this stuff out, but I'm doing it. It's really fun. So that's a good part, to get something that, kind of be like a beta tester. So that is a fun thing. But you had some other ideas, Christine. I've seen you come up with some different ways to use video. You want to share a couple of different things that maybe just would spark somebody's interest? Because I do know that people learn different ways and people like creating different contests. So what other kind of videos can people make, can they do to show off their expertise and to market themselves as a social media manager?
Well, I mean, Facebook Live is very popular, but don't forget about Instagram. Instagram, you can use video in 3 main ways. If you put something in your feed on your profile there, it has to be a minute. So you tell stories a different way if you have a minute versus how you tell them if you have over 10 minutes, right? So figuring out how to tell stories in that way can be a low pressure way of doing it. Also stories. Stories are on Instagram and on Facebook. You can use still images, you can use text only, but you can also use video and you can break it down into those 10-second chunks, even though you can go longer than 10 seconds and it'll just kind of stack a few story segments that are 10 seconds on top of each other, like somewhat seamlessly. It's nice if it can fit into that 10-second chunk. There's a reason they chose that, and that's because they want that type of content to be consumed on the go.
Sure.
So that could be a fun way of doing it, especially if you're stuck for content. You can go on Instagram stories. You can say, hey, I'm going to talk about one of these 3 topics. Which ones do you want to hear about? And you can put a sticker there where people can vote what they want to hear about. Then later you can come back knowing people are interested and say, hey, you guys voted on this topic, so here's what I'm going to say about that. And then go to your next story segment. Be like, hey, Christine, my question is blah, blah, blah. And then your next story segment. Well, here's the answer to that. And it can be really fun. You can do something that simple. Also on Instagram, there's IGTV, which is more like a 10-minute video. And that's a great thing to have there, especially since it's not ephemeral like stories. It's to be consumed differently. It's more of a YouTube type experience where you're going there to watch video and it lives there on the profile. And then, of course, there's YouTube. YouTube, everything's copying everything else. So YouTube now has live video. I have not gone live on YouTube. But YouTube generally, because it's an audience that's there to watch video, you could do a lot of how-to stuff, a lot of really educational stuff on YouTube. People don't go there as much to watch just a random conversation like on Facebook Live as they might to watch something that is a little more of a how-to, I'm looking for information in easy to consume video form. I need to start building my YouTube out.
I was going to say, a couple of years ago, I concentrated on YouTube, and I had a lot of the Facebook changes at that time, like 4 years ago, I would make videos of, and one of them was how to change your Facebook email back to your own email. Because Facebook, I don't know if you remember.
Way back,
Way back, Facebook basically gave everybody a facebook.com email address, and people weren't using it. And so you could go in and fix that. And I made that video and like 4,000 views in a couple of weeks. Like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So if you figure out, especially with, all the platform changes, if you make short videos, tag them right, and put them on YouTube, you can make a big impact. And what you should use this for. So Christine, the end game, of course, is for people to get clients, right? For social media managers to get more clients. So, some of that video can live on those native platforms. You already said some of that video needs to then be embedded in your blog. At some point, there has to be a call to action. Some point, there has to be a call me, email me. This is what I offer. Download this free thing. Book a call with me, right? So at what point, at what stage in your video marketing strategy, because you're a strategist, so say you do a show for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 5 weeks consistently, when do you know you're ready to invite people to do that, to book that call, to get on that email list, to, maybe that's a little earlier, but because really this is about giving our students right now a way to get new clients off of doing video. It can't be a 3-year plan because that's not good. So how do you do that? And what's the timeline on that?
I'm terrible at that, so I would love to know. But what I would say to other people and what I need to start to, so the way I do it, and this is not ideal, this is waiting, I think, too long, but the way I've been doing it is I wait until people approach me, if they're asking me specific questions, if they are messaging me directly, which certainly does happen, if they're like, hey, I have a further question on this. That's when I get into that conversation with them. I say, well, what are you looking to do? And what is your business? And then I say, okay, well, here's how I could help you. And here's my packages. But it's ideal to not wait that long. You want to make sure that people know that you are not just a content creator. You want to make sure people know that you are, in fact, a social media marketer, a strategist, a consultant, an account manager, someone who can help them do something actual for money. So I wait too long to get into that conversation. I wait until they approach me, and that is happening more and more. With the higher quality video that I put out in terms of the content I'm delivering, I'm getting more and more people reaching out directly to me as a result of that, saying, hey, I have further questions, or this is unrelated to what you just did video about, but here's another question, do you know about this too? And that's when I get into that conversation, but it needs to happen sooner. I think that it's important to realize you are a business. It is not that tacky to promote yourself. When people come watch my videos, they're watching it on my Christine Gritmon Inc. Facebook page. It's not just on my personal profile generally. So I need to realize they know they're watching a video from a company. It is not so bad to add at the end, I'm here to help any small businesses, give me a call. Yeah. I mean, I have to come up with a better pitch than that. I really need to come up with like a tagline to put at the end of all my videos, or maybe even if you don't want to say it in your video, there's text that goes with your video. When you're doing a post to Facebook, there's a post that goes along with that video. There's an opportunity for text. So it doesn't hurt if you put your website URL there.
Sure.
If you say, check out my services tab for more information. I added a book now button. I was on someone else's Facebook Live a week ago. Social Chefs, they have a show called Social Chatter, which basically breaks down the type of headlines that I do in Midweek Minute, except we discuss it, which is great. And during that, we did a screen share. We had just found out that you could put a book now appointments button on Facebook. It used to be you could do that if you
run an ad,
an outside app, but now you can just do it. And so we said, oh, let's see how that works. And we did a screen share on my profile, and I created a book now button, and people have used it. because they know I have it because I shared the heck out of that video. And I said, by the way, if you're curious about Book Now, fast forward to minute 22 or whatever the heck it was. In fact, I should promote that a little bit more. But
That's awesome. So tell us again, you have these different buttons that you can put out there. Message me or call me, but there's one, Book Now. Does it connect to like Calendly, or which one does it, any of them? Any of
what
those?
it did, I wish it would connect to Calendly because I have some Calendly event types that I really like that have certain times that are off limits for certain types of meetings. And so I want it to connect to Calendly. At the moment, what it does though is it will integrate with my Google Calendar.
Okay.
And so that's what it does. It integrates with my work calendar. I have a million Google calendars. I'm sure a lot of people do, like,
Yeah.
You know, but it integrates with my work calendar. And I was able to say the hours between which I will work because I pretty much work school hours for the most part when I'm rocking my freedom of being a self-employed mom. But I do want it to integrate with Calendly. I hope it gets there. I know it already integrated with some booking services like Booker, I think it might have integrated.
Okay.
I'm not sure. So I hope it integrates with Calendly. But it's kind of cool. You can say, okay, between these hours and these hours, people can book time with me as long as it doesn't conflict with this calendar. And it's really, and also if you have services there in your services tab, you can specify what services can be booked and how much time they can be booked for and when they can and cannot be booked. I need to dig into it more. I haven't touched that, that function since I did the live stream.
Yeah, because in the end, you know, we want to be able to, you know, translate as fast as we can this, you know, you want to be able to measure ROI on these content videos that you're putting out. And I think that doing the best videos you can in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of effort, you know, batching is important, you know, scripting. We didn't really talk about that, but you say you script them a little bit.
I do loose scripting for those. What I do is I want to have an idea of what I'm going to say because again, I'm not going back and editing. That's my style. My style is I just shoot it fast and I like that, which means I have to not have a ton of and what was I going to say. Live video, there's a little more forgiveness for that. But if it's pre-recorded, don't have a ton of that, man. Otherwise, why are you pre-recording it? So I do try to have at least a basic outline of what I'm going to say so that I don't get tongue-tied.
Okay, that's really good. So a basic script, maybe, you know, at least a place where you can go live that, you know, has a decent background, or at least it's the same every week.
Yeah.
You know, make sure you have reliable Wi-Fi. I'm trying to get rid, but then at the end, you've got to give people a call to action, right? And
I'm gonna start doing that this week. Tomorrow's Facebook Live video is gonna have a call to action.
Yes.
The beginning, the middle, and the end.
Yes. Awesome. I love it. All right. So I have one more question, then I'm going to let you go because I'm going to get ready for my LinkedIn Live, my second one. I'm very excited. So the last question I have for you, how much time for marketing and video creation should a social media manager who's just starting out, who is, you know, trying to make ends meet, what is realistic? What if they do one show a week or one video a week? I mean, it sounded like you were saying like an hour a month.
I'll say one thing I will definitely say is start smaller, get consistent, and build. Because again, last year I played with video formats for a few recurring video types and they kind of crashed and burned because I was so excited and so full of ideas after this conference that I was like, I want to do this and this and this. And then I started doing all of them and realized that I was completely overwhelmed. They didn't fit into my life. I wasn't able to do the things I needed to do for my work. So I said, you know what can I commit to? And how can I make it as easy as possible? Part of why I love live video is because you do it and it's done.
Right.
You should promote it in advance. You should repurpose it after. But the fact remains the primary content, the thing that really matters, you do it and it's done.
Right.
And so that can be a great way to get started. And as I said, batch creating, I'm about to give a workshop actually locally called How to Create 6+ months of content in one day. And it's going to talk all about that, about how you have the knowledge in your brain already that other people need. So don't overthink it. Just think, what do people need that I can deliver to them? How can I deliver it quickly and clearly? Now, how can I break that into a bunch of tiny pieces that I can stretch out over a period of time?
That's awesome. Thank you. Well, I have learned a ton, and I'm excited that you are really taking video after a couple of starts and stops and starts and stops, and you're doing it as a social media strategist, working with small businesses, which a lot of our students who are watching have that same type of audience. It sounds like you just need to get started, turn the camera on yourself. If you want to connect with Christine Gritmon, Christine, I'm going to invite you into the group. So that way, if people have some questions or they want to show some videos, you can come in, go into the group. So I just want to thank you for your time today. I think that this has been really valuable. Often we focus on helping our students help their clients. And today we really focused on helping them promote themselves and market themselves. We didn't talk about Facebook ads on videos or boosting them or any of that, but maybe we'll have you back for a video marketing 201 where we can talk a little bit more about, okay, now you have this content and you created that 6 months ago, you're consistent. How can you reuse it, and how can you use it for Facebook ads, and how can you grow?
So I'll give one tip on that, which is what does well organically is what is going to be your clue for what is going to go the furthest for the least money as an ad.
Okay, that makes sense. It's the same for images, so that makes sense that it would be for videos as well. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Christine. Thank you for those who watched. We appreciate you spending time with us today. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you later. Bye.